And it was really one of those situations like in the movies where you know it's going to hurt. Like you have to do a major effort, and you know it's going to hurt like hell. Hi there, culture eaters, and welcome to my channel. It's been a really long time since I actually just sat down and did a recording of just me talking to you, but man, do I have the video to do that today. The theme of today's video is every traveler's nightmare. What happens if you have a traumatic accident while on vacation? Because guess what? It just happened to me. So I really wanted to share my experience with you. Hopefully it'll give you insight on what to expect, any decisions you might take, whether to do an activity or not, and just overall help you in your travel plans. So stick around and I will tell you about my traumatic experience while on vacation. If you're new to the channel and you are not yet subscribed, I think you know what to do. You should go there and hit subscribe and that notification bell so you don't miss any new videos to come. I will have tons and tons of shorts coming out from my trip of all the different things. All right, so let's get into this topic. I left on June 28th, 2023 to go visit a friend of mine who is in the Okanagan Valley, that is in British Columbia, Canada. Just as reference right away, I'm from Quebec, Canada, so same country. So I went to visit my friend, and it's a beautiful sort of like south central area of British Columbia that's known for agriculture. They grow peaches and cherries and apricots and lots of wines, and it's a really fun area to visit. I actually went to visit my friend Michelle last year for 3 days, and she invited me back, and we decided to make a full trip. So it was supposed to be just over 2 weeks originally. The first 10 days we had an amazing time in British Columbia mostly, and then we had one more day to go before we were going to catch a flight to go back to Calgary, because we timed it with the Calgary Stampede, and we were actually going to rent a car once we got to Calgary to go northeast at Drumheller, which is an area that's known for dinosaur bone discoveries. They have an amazing paleontology museum there. If that's something that interests you, check out Drumheller. So on the last day, we wanted to keep things a bit quiet, but still do something. We only had a chance to go biking once, and I had read about this provincial park called Myra Bellevue Provincial Park that you could do some cycling, and Michelle was up to it, so we went to go there. So this park is known as the old train railway that goes really close to the edge around the mountains, and it's famous for about 16 different trestles, so those big wooden bridges that go over a crevice in the mountain. So you can rent a bike and go along there. Now I know what you're thinking, you fell off your bike. I did not. I did not fall off my bike. It's something a lot more silly, of course. But anyways, the place was beautiful. At the bike rental, you do have to sign a 2-page long waiver of any accidents, which should have been a red flag, even though I wasn't on my bike when I hurt myself, but it was kind of weird. And there was an 800 number on a yellow sticker on the bike you could call in case of emergency. Thankfully, my friend and I went off on our bike ride, and the biggest trestle there is at the 6th kilometer marker. So we get there, and along the ride there's like a lot of parts. I'll show you some videos of us riding along. So the trestles have a certain section, I can't spread my arm wide enough, this one's blocked, that you can bike on, and then there's like a section at the end which still has like the wood beams like a train track would have, where pedestrians can stand. But off those trestles, you are pretty much riding like along a cliff. There's some vegetation at some spots, but you could really easily bike off the cliff. which was actually my main concern. Even though it's plenty of space, you think you could do it. Thankfully, that was not how I hurt myself. We got to the biggest trestle at the 6-kilometer mark, and we parked our bicycles off the platform where you can bike. That's more on the side, the edge, where pedestrians would usually hang. We wanted to take a selfie picture and a selfie video. You can see right now I'm going to put up the selfie picture I took minutes before the accident. We took the picture, I ran back, I set it up for a video. I wanted to just do a little video where like waving with the scenery behind us and our bikes in it. And then that's when it happened. I'm sorry, I really have trouble moving this arm. What happened is there's like, you know, train tracks, there's a wooden beam, there's an empty space, wooden beam, an empty space. Let me try to find a video here or a picture to give you a better idea of what I'm talking about. I don't know what happened, but when I went to place myself behind my bike to be ready to start waving at the camera, my right leg, my foot, my shin, and my upper thigh went right through one of those wood spaces. I mean, they weren't like super wide, they weren't super narrow, but like I have really good thighs, big chunky thighs. I don't know how it went that far deep in, but I was stuck and lodged. The other big problem, which was really the big incident part, is that as I fell, this arm, like pretend it's my right arm, went kind of like this, and I hit the rungs of the railing and I dislocated my right shoulder. Yay. Yeah, that sounds as fun as you think, as you can imagine, really. So at that point, I didn't really know what had happened to me. I just knew my leg was stuck. I knew I wasn't gonna fall any further, but again, I'm at the highest trestle, so I'm in a position where I'm leaning like this, and I just see like, you know, 40 feet below me of empty space. So that kind of triggered me. I really wanted to get out of that position as fast as possible. I just couldn't move my arm, and I didn't really know what to do. People started stopping, trying to help, but sometimes, you know, they were not equipped to help. My friend Michelle called the 800 number for help, and they said call 911. Again, also, we are in the Provincial Park in nature. The reception, not that great. It really wasn't great reception. Actually, I think my friend lost it a couple of times and had to call back. Thankfully, some time later, a first aid respondent from the rental bike did come to help. My friend got in touch with 911, and because we were in a provincial park, and basically when the first aid guy came, he said, unless you can get up and walk those 6 kilometers back, it's going to be a search and rescue team kind of situation. I didn't know like it was what was happening to my shoulder. I just knew it really hurt a lot. I was jammed. My left leg, I had gotten some control and I could move it like in between the other rung. Basically, we tried several times for me to move to at least unjam my leg, which we managed to do, and stopping some people where there were stronger men helped the first aid respondent to hold me and lift me up, but they could only hold me from my left shoulder or from my waist or buttocks because my right shoulder was in pain. And it was really one of those situations like in the movies where you know it's going to hurt. Like you have to do a major effort, and you know it's going to hurt like hell. Hi from Evelyn in the future. So this is me editing many weeks later. I just wanted to make a mention that this video was taped 2 weeks after the accident. There will be a part 2 because so much more has happened. So yeah, I just didn't have anything to bite like they do in the movies, but I just psychologically prepared, and after 2 or 3 tries, They finally managed to get me at least standing. And I walked a little bit off to the trestle onto the normal ground and sat down and like I positioned my back up against the 6 kilometer marker. That was rough. From the moment that I fell also, I was very nauseous. I never actually did throw up and I never passed out, but I almost wish I did, honestly, so I could have missed parts of it. It was painful. So I think at that point, actually, the first aid respondent asked me on a scale of 1 to 10, and I gave him an 8. It was really, really painful. Then at that point, we knew search and rescue had to come. Well, we already knew a little bit before that, but 911 had been advised that they had to organize a search and rescue team. And then we had to wait. So I had a very and it's a bit high, but I couldn't hold my arm like this or like this. It had to be like at an angle, kind of like this. And I had to have a specific angle like this and a specific angle like this. And the first aid guy held my arm. I mean, I constantly told him how to move and adjust it because it hurt. But he held my arm with both his arms up in the air for so long. I'm sure he was dying, like he could not feel his arms anymore or anything. So from the time that the accident actually happened till search and rescue came, 2 hours had gone by. So the accident happened around 3 p.m. and the search and rescue team arrived around 5 p.m. So yeah, I was suffering through this for 2 hours without anything or not knowing how help was going to come or whatnot. I kept trying to be positive and I tried to keep people around me positive, which is an interesting reaction. Like I shouldn't care what other people think at that time, but I was just trying to keep the mood light if I could, except for the pain. I did ask for them to tell people to stop stopping and asking how we were doing, because if anybody was in my peripheral vision, it made me more nauseous and just stressed to have all the people around me, including my friend Michelle. I a few times told her like get away from me because just seeing somebody in front of me made me really nauseous. So after 2 hours, 4 men on mountain bikes arrived. And my first reaction was, how exactly are they going to be taking me off the mountain on 4 bikes? Like, this is not gonna work. But I said, okay, they're here to start. Right away, they took everything out of their bags and kind of spread it on the floor, like on the ground around me. And one of the things I noticed was the pain medication box, which I desperately needed. But I knew that I had to give them time to inspect my shoulder and my situation, so they could determine what's the best next step. And they couldn't tell by touching it. They didn't know if the humerus was broken. They didn't know if the shoulder was broken. They couldn't tell if it had popped out or not. I remember now somebody going, I can't feel a divot. So I'm assuming that means they were trying to find if there was a dislocation or not, and they couldn't. So I remember almost everything. I have my train of time is morphed, and there's one section that I completely forget. But besides that, I remember everything during that entire day. So it was decided, finally they gave me some medication. I actually took note of some of the medications I was given. So I was given like kind of like a whistle, let me get the name. It's called methoxyflurane, usually sold under the name of Penthrox, which is a pen. And you inhale, keep it in and exhale it, a bit like you would do with an asthma inhaler, but it's more like a pen, and it's self-administered. So that took effect pretty fast. It really helped with the pain. Again, they had asked me at that point what my pain level was, and I went to 8.5. So this really helped. Michelle is awesome, my friend. She knows me very well, so she didn't like exaggerate, but she knew I would want to have the whole thing documented, so she actually took the occasional picture. While I started sucking on this Penthrox pen, I became happy and giddy and pain-free and yelled, Michelle, take a picture, which I will show you now. You can see I'm out of it and giddy, and when I said that, like everybody around, all the rescue team and the first aid guy, like everybody was laughing. So, you know, there's some good memories in there. So then they said that if I couldn't stand, and I later found out it was like an all-terrain four-wheeler kind of vehicle that they had. If I couldn't stand and walk to it and sit in it, then they would have to get the helicopter to rescue me. So I was again in a position where I had to bear the pain, even though I had some drugs, and let them mobilize me with me walking to this four-wheel all-terrain vehicle. Honestly, that part is fuzzy. I do not remember the ride on the vehicle at all. Apparently it was about half an hour ride, and that's the one thing I really don't remember. I know they gave me 2 of those Penthrox pens inhalers, which apparently is the maximum, but it's not an opioid, it's not a hallucinogen or anything like that. It's really like a painkiller. My friend Michelle had to ride back the 6 kilometers by bicycle to get in her car and meet me. I think she just went to the ambulance. To the hospital. I don't think she was at the ambulance. I do remember being taken off something and put into the ambulance. And I chatted with the ambulance driver the whole way, which was another half-hour ride. So at that point, he gave me laughing gas, which is nitrous oxide, known as laughing gas, but it does not necessarily make you laugh. It's not a real painkiller either. It just dulls the pain, which it did. What I really liked about this also is that it is self-administered. So at first I was breathing it in a lot, but there were times where the pain was dull enough that I kind of stopped and did not take it in all the time. But then I'd have to take it again. So I really, really liked the self-administered painkiller situation that wasn't, again, an opioid or anything like that. So by the time we get to the hospital, 3 hours have gone by. It's now 6 p.m. At least that's what Michelle tells me. She was probably, I don't know if she was there before me or after me, but to my recollection, she was there when I arrived. And you know, there's always some delay. I was put on a, God, I only have the word in French in my head. I was put on a first emergency hospital bed in a hallway, and I was being watched. I don't remember anybody really coming to see me like right away. That, again, that time is fuzzy, but I know at some point a nurse or a doctor came to touch, and a couple of them did, and again they could not come to a conclusion as to what was my injury. So they ordered x-rays, and we waited for quite some time. The x-ray department came, and like I heard them calling my name 3 times, but like I wasn't really all there. But then they left. Like, I don't understand how the x-ray department would not come and check with the staff where Evelyn is and not just leave because Evelyn's not responding because she's drugged and has, you know, a traumatic accident. So we actually waited extra long for them to come back, which sucked. But there was a time, according to my friend, that I was no longer on pain medication for about an hour and a half. And really started to hurt again a lot. Asked for pain medication, and I don't know, they're really hesitant in Canada to give pain meds because they don't really want to give you anything that's addictive or anything like that. But I got to the 10. I got to the 10 out of 10. I was just screaming. I was trying not to scream. I know, like, I'm in the emergency room with other people around, but I could not help it. I was just screaming to go get through the pain. And one nurse came over me and he says, you know, you have to be quiet. There's other people around here, like children. And I like wanted to smack him, but I said that's not going to be the best way to get meds quick. So I kept my mouth shut. So I asked if I could have something. And not too long after that, he did come back and injected something in me. I already had like 2 intravenous going. I don't know what he injected in me at that point. I have no idea. But again, it was not an opioid or anything like that. It was just to deal with the pain. I'm gonna put my laptop away for this since I've mentioned all the drugs. It wasn't as good as the laughing gas and the Penthrox pen, but it really helped to manage the pain that I didn't have to scream anymore. So yeah, I know what a 10 out of 10 is now. Finally, the x-ray, they came to get me. We did the x-ray, which was really hard again. They wanted me to stand or sit from some of the positions. So at least I'm more drugged at this time, but it was rough. Went back to the ER, and finally they came and said that my humerus was not broken, but my shoulder was dislocated, and they said there was a little fracture somewhere. And I'll show you the x-rays. Like, I'm trigger warning, if you don't want to see the x-rays of a dislocated shoulder, you might want to close your eyes for like, 10-15 seconds. But here's the picture of the before and the after of my dislocation. So at that point, it was maybe around 10:30 p.m. About 8 hours went by since the actual accident and them finally knowing what is happening and what they have to do. And I felt like they had been preparing me for the potential idea of surgery. They were mentally preparing me for some time, because that's a really, really long time to not have a reduction, which means popping the shoulder back in. It's called a reduction. It's a very, very, very long time. The longer your joint stays out, the more the ligaments stretch, the harder bones move. I was like really hoping that it would work with the reduction. So at that point, they put me more in like a smaller private area and talked to the doctor. I know they did put me out for it. It was a mix of ketamine and something else. I've had a ketamine once too, because I dislocated my thumb. So I knew I was going to be out and not feel anything, which I was thrilled about. And he's like giving me, they have to give you any possible consequences that could happen of your decision of making, taking the drug or blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, just do it. Like, yes, just do it. So they put me to sleep, and they were able to do the reduction. They were able to pop my shoulder back in place. I was so relieved when I woke up. Whatever little fracture there was, they said when they popped the shoulder back, it popped that minor fracture back, so I didn't have to do anything about it. So it took me a while to wake up, and I think by the time we were discharged, it was 11:30 p.m. So accident at 3 p.m., finally left the hospital at 11:30 p.m. I think. All I had was a sling, and they said keep the sling for 1 week, and they were very adamant about only having it for 1 week and no longer. And they said I could take Tylenol or like Motrin for pain, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Yeah, they're like, and then he said you have to do physio starting like right after that week. So yeah, that was the actual whole incident part. I actually managed to sleep, I don't know how, that night at my friend's, and we made our way back on the 18th, and it was a struggle. Made it back to Montreal. So it's funny how you're ill. I feel like the first days that you're post-traumatic injury, your body is still like, you're in pain a bit, but it's like in a protective cocoon. And I was probably just pushing through adrenaline when I came home, and all that adrenaline fall, a hard day of traveling that wasn't super pleasant. I kind of collapsed energy wise, and it's also when my muscles started to like get out of that protective state and feeling more some of the specific pains. This is as far as it goes. But an issue that I've had was I have a lot of cramping on my upper arm, a lot of muscle cramping. It was before the first day of physio, it was like painful cramping. And I tried, the only thing that could help temporarily was meditation breathing. Otherwise, there's like medications not doing anything. So lots and lots of muscle cramping. I think that's one of the first things I have to work through with my exercises, to be able to work more on the shoulder part. But there's been improvements. It's been going really well, even if it's been like a day and a half of exercises. So, and the physiotherapist was still really impressed with when she moved the arm to see how much she could move it until I had pain. They were like 50 or 70 degree angles, which she was really happy about. So, oh yeah, and I have nerve damage. It's better and better, but like it feels like the dentist when you're like thawing out. So it's been like that for 12 days, but it is getting better. So that's really weird. So yeah, that's my story of traumatic injury, dislocated shoulder while on vacation. Any advice that I can give? Look into the place that you're going to make sure if it's safe. I know it's silly, it looks safe, everybody said they loved it. But as I mentioned earlier, it looks like you could bike off the edge, and I actually found out a couple of days later that someone I know has a cousin who did bike off and died 3 or 4 days later from complications. So Myra, Bellevue, Provincial Park, go with great precautions. Even if you're just taking a picture, because that's what happened to me. Make sure you have proper medical insurance to where you're traveling. Again, lucky I was in Canada. I am Canadian. We have universal health care. But if I was going to the US or something like that, I would definitely make sure I have the proper medical insurance, because that could be life-changing in a very negative way. Try to be as positive as possible with what you're going through. It's way easier said than done. When you're going through that intense 8+ out of 10 pain, I just kept trying to think, this is temporary, it's gonna be like a long time, a few hours, but it's temporary if I look at it, with like everyday life. So I was just trying really hard to stay positive, even post hospital, of like, yes, we're gonna keep traveling, yes, I'll try to stay positive. It had its painful moments here and there, but I really tried to stay as positive as possible. I don't know how many times Michelle said that, like, she's like, you're tough as nails. I don't know, for me, there was no other way. There was no other way to just bear it and keep going. If that comes off as tough as nails, okay. But for me, there was just no other option. Again, I know I'm going back home where I live alone. Just whatever your situation you're in, try to be as positive as possible, no matter what the situation is, because it's what's gonna help a lot to get through. One thing I forgot to mention is, do I remember the 10 out of 10 pain? No. Right away the next day, I remember what happened. I remember screaming. I have some recollection of the pain, but I don't remember the pain. So when people ask me if it's painful, well, I'm like, well, it's relative to the day that it happened. If that's the case, then I'm gonna say no. So I hope you learned from my story. I hope I gave you some advice of what to do should you ever find yourself in this situation. I really hope that you found some information on how to avoid getting into these situations in the first place, and how to cope if it does happen to you or to somebody who's around you. I really, really wanted to share this experience because I think it's every traveler's nightmare. But I did it and I survived, and life goes on. So I really wanted to share that message. If you have any questions or comment about this video or the incident that happened to me, please leave a comment down below. I would love to read them and to reply to them. As always, remember to eat and travel outside of your comfort zone. Please check out the shorts that are going to be coming out soon. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon. Mwah. Bye.